In this video, we'll start looking at the process of beginning a newsletter design from scratch, and we'll finish up in the next video. We've already got templates for our Frez News and for our Frez Recipes newsletters, and they were based on the same look, and what we'll do now is we'll create a template for the job openings category from scratch. There are a few design tips and guidelines that I'd like to mention along the way that you might find helpful, but they all rely on the one sound advice that I could give, and that is to keep it simple. The reason is that different mail clients, that is the programs that people use to read their email, interpret your design slightly differently. So if you have a complex design, you have a good chance that it will be incorrectly interpreted. Okay, so what I'll do first is I'll go to my newsletter subscriber overview and I'll choose the relevant category to get the right list. Now I could go back and do this later if I had wanted to, and I could also do this along the way as we've seen previously. Then I'll go into Send Newsletter. And here, instead of loading a draft as previously, I'll just go in and fill in some content. So for the heading, I'll write Job Positions at Frez. I've briefly mentioned in an earlier video the Edit Layout area next to the HTML radio button selection for type. It would be possible to create a shell or wrapper here where we could build a graphical structure. And that would be a good technique if you were just intending to write text in the HTML area as if you were working in a word processing program. But what we're going to do here is to build a structure directly into our HTML editing window because I want to add text in various areas, and as we'll see, it's not going to just be in one clump. So what I'll do is I'll create a table with the table button over here in the Rich Text Editor toolbar. And we see that we'll come to the table editing interface, which may be familiar territory for many of you who have worked with basic text editing in Tangora. I should just touch on the use of tables as a building block here, because some might question why we used what might be considered an old-fashioned tool. Some of you may be familiar with Tangora's Visual Designer tool, which can be used to create layouts based on div elements, which is the currently preferred way for making a layout for the web. That's all well and good, but in the world of newsletters, based on the Keep It Simple principle, we're well advised to stick with tables. On a relative note, we should also try to avoid CSS or typographies if we can, and stick with rich text editor styling, or indeed tweaking the HTML. Okay, well, I'm not going to review all the settings here, but I just want to use what I need for the job at hand. And the first thing I want to consider is the width of my newsletter. You'll also probably want to keep it rather slim to ensure that your average viewer could see the whole email without having to scroll or expand the view. I'll take 500 pixels as my width. I want to add a little bit of space on the left and right, so I'll need to use 4 columns, so I have 2 spacer columns. And here I'll, under unit of measurement, choose pixels, and then I'll just type in 20, 230, 230, and 20, which gives a total of 500 pixels. I'll also want to have some rows where I could have room for header image and intro and footer text and my positions, as well as some spacer rows that are just going to be empty and hold a position. So I'll add 8 here and I'll just hit OK at the bottom. Before I go any further, I'll make sure to save my work already now. So I'll hit the Save Draft and I'll enter in Job Openings Template as the name. Now let's leave the top as a spacer row, and then in the next couple of rows we're going to merge column 2 and column 3 together in order to make room for a headline and some intro text. And here I'll click on the left-hand cell that I want to affect, and I'll choose Merge in Table, Merge with Next Cell Horizontal, and I'll do it here again at the bottom where I want to have my closing text. I have a good habit of saving often, so I'll just go down and hit Save Draft again. Okay. So in this video, we've built a basic structure for our newsletter, and in the next video, we'll finish up our work.